think being fat is a choice? Let me know right now in the comments down below. What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video with Jay Guala. Welcome to Just Guala, the channel. Today we're going to be reacting to, is being fat a choice? What do y'all think? I think it is. I've been on both sides of the spectrum. You know, now I'm on the smaller side. I was a bigger guy for the majority of my life. And I would say I chose not to work out. I chose not to eat well. I chose not to keep up with my physical appearance as much because I was comfortable with who I was. I was comfortable with being fat. But that's how I think of it. Because like I said, I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I'm on the slimmer side. I want y'all to let me know why y'all think is being fat a choice. And we're going to react to it today. And let's see what everybody got to say.
I'm sorry, there's a big difference between the people who are telling people go out and get fat versus a Lizzo who's saying accept me the way I am.
She's not just saying accept me the way I am, she's dressing extremely scantily clad and then saying if you don't think that it's normal for a morbidly obese person to be wearing a G-string in the middle of public, then you're the problem.
Oh. It should be interesting. I'm ready for this one.
Being fat or skinny is a choice.
1,000%.
Careers?
1,000%. I already gave my reason.
Of course, not every factor is purely choice. I don't think that every factor is, but I do think a majority of it is. And in most cases, for most people, being skinny or being fat is about willpower. It's about the environment you grow up in, sure, but who you choose to associate with, what sort of things you choose to listen to, who you choose to kind of have as your friends around you and support you. All of those things are choices that you can make that will lead you closer towards being one or the other.
I know what I do with my body. I know what I put into it day in and day out. I choose not to eat some days. I choose, you know, how I want to look. And I don't fault anyone for how they want to look or how they want to be, but I think it's a choice at the end of the day.
Hell yeah, it is.
I'm very, you know, always wish-washy on how I want to be presented and if I want to gain weight or not. Yeah. But the only person that's going to gain the weight at the end of the day is me and me myself.
For me, it's calories in, calories out. Go to the gym, you'll get buff. Don't go to the gym, you won't get buff. I understand that there's genetics that could cause you to want to eat more, but even with the genetics that cause you to want to eat more, the same solution is calories in, calories out.
I think the whole choice is, you know, always determined on who they are. And it's not going to just be a thing done overnight.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of, I think it's like breaking the barrier and breaking a lot of things, not only your body, but also breaking your mental state.
Sure.
And again, that depends on who you are and what you want to go through.
You know what? I agree with that. Before I actually got into fitness, I never cared for fitness. Way back when I started working, a real good partner of mine that I used to work with named Fabian. My guy Fabian is the person who like really introduced me into the gym, and that actually got me on the time of, okay, like, you know what, maybe I should just start working out. And it just became a habit. Like, you know, every day after work, as soon as we get off, we go to the gym. Get off, go to the gym. It just became like a routine. Something I felt like I had to do, and I didn't feel right unless I did do it. I would agree with what he said. I agree with that.
Disagreeers?
Even got some skinny people that disagree. It should be interesting.
I felt like as a toddler, I always viewed myself as big. I grew up in a very like poor home, so where my mom couldn't provide the meals that she could healthily. So when we would get like free meals, even then it would be like canned food, and it would be like very much food that's not as edible. It was food for us, yes, but then I felt like once it reached a point where I was old enough to try to make my own choices, I made all of the wrong choices. I wasn't eating, and I was only eating like grapes and lettuce, and that was mainly because I was in a sport, and that sport just worked me out so hard. And it was to the point where I just was scared to eat. I didn't like it. I would only drink water.
When you were eating grapes and lettuce, were you thin?
I was the thinnest I could be.
Were you still big though?
I was still big, but that was the skinniest I've ever been. And that's coming from somebody who was only eating somewhat salads that are just fruit and lettuce and water and maybe ice right before a practice.
Do you think that right now you would not be capable of becoming a thin woman if you wanted to?
I possibly would be capable of becoming a thin woman, but since I was young, I was supposed to get blood tested probably when I was very, very young, and I never did. And they had mentioned that it could have been because of my weight and how that connects with my thyroid. I never made the connection, and I never had like that leaning parent to be like, go and get checked out, go and do this, like your weight is probably not your fault. It was always like, your weight is your fault, so that's your issue.
I mean, I also struggle with, you know, thyroid and my own blood issues. I'm not quite sure, but I do see an endocrinologist and I go see a doctor. It's a choice to do the requisite steps. It's a choice to go grocery shopping instead of going to fast food when it's easy. It's a choice when you're grocery shopping to go to the outer aisles and like not go into the bread section and not go into the junk food section. These are all choices.
As a disabled woman, I can't do a lot of the things that people say, calories in, calories out, oh, you gotta go work out and exert it. A lot of the things that are typical, oh, this is how you lose weight, put me in the hospital. I have to navigate weight differently. I have to look at it differently. My weight is the way it is because of medication, because doctors put me in this position. And I had to learn, okay, am I going to be so hateful of my own body that I am going to backlash and put myself through extreme gym nights, through keeping myself from eating things that I should be able to eat. You should be able to have a balance. You should be able to go into the junk food aisle like other skinny people do and still not have to worry about gaining 20 pounds.
But I don't think skinny people go into this junk food aisle.
They
I think
certainly do.
They do.
They eat a lot of junk food.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, my DoorDash would tell you otherwise.
There's a thing called set points. There's a ton of research on it, that your body likes to be at specific weights. It likes to be in a specific way. So,
but I don't know. I still believe that goes back to the mindset. If your body is telling you, okay, you like to be like this, probably because you've been like that for so long that your body has come accustomed to it. So it still starts with the changing of the mind. You said it's a set point. I don't know. I don't have a lot of knowledge on like set points and how like a significant of a role it could play for weight loss. However, I do believe that there was a point where you wasn't at that set point. You didn't get there yet. You didn't get there like in overnight. Like it took time. Again, I was on that same side. It took time for me to be like, okay, I'm cool with being big. It ain't bothering me. I was still pulling. So I was like, shoot, skip it. But still though, it still started with the changing of my mind and how I felt after leaving the gym. Speaking for myself.
if you are fighting yourself to lose weight by not eating, over exercising, and you are damn near killing yourself to be at a specific weight, your body's unhappy.
It's important to note that a choice can be harder for people to make due to conditions in their life. Yes. Okay. But at the end of the day, it's still a choice. I could say that I had food addiction. I looked to food when I was stressed and this and that and this. And so it's harder for me to choose it than for someone who has like the perfect lifestyle, someone who has parents who are giving them this and that and this. But I definitely still acknowledge that it was my choice. At the end of the day, when I go there and I look and I see, should I order a second hamburger? I'm the one choosing whether or not I order that second hamburger. I'm the one making that choice.
I would rather be skinny than fat. Can they agree?
If I'm gonna be completely honest, yeah. Reason why is because even like when it comes to like clothing sizes, we can scrutinize or we can bash the maker of the clothes for not making clothes for everybody that's around that have that same body type. However, when they say skinny, I don't see myself like anorexic skinny. Like how my guy is right here on the right. Like for me, that's too skinny for me. I'm not like super anorexic skinny, but you know what I'm saying. But I got a little meat on my bones. Like show a little mass, or at least just to fill out just a little more. You know what I'm saying? But yes, to answer the question, yeah, definitely. She is definitely pro skinny.
I think there's a lot of different struggles when it comes to being a bit bigger. Okay. And I have a sister that is very, she's 400 pounds and she struggles a lot. She has lymphedema, and to shower is really, really hard.
Yeah.
So I do think for like an overall happy life and like zero struggle, I think I'd rather be skinny.
Okay.
I think that it is common in society to want to be skinny. I think the average person typically wants to be skinny. I'm actually surprised that I didn't see more people come forward on that question. People treat you better. It is what is considered the standard of beauty. Your life expectancy is longer. You tend to be healthier.
I'm also really tall. I'm 6'6", so
Damn.
I kind of wish I could just pick a single struggle, because finding the clothes and things like that when you're bigger both ways can make it really hard. So if I was
Boom. And that's another thing. Finding clothes when you are a bigger guy. There's a store that I like out here. It's called PacSun. I'm sure y'all probably have it wherever y'all at. PacSun, to me, well, at the time, was having some of the coldest drip coming around. But I couldn't wear a PacSun like that. I could only wear the shirts. But like the pants and stuff like that, I couldn't do none of that because they didn't fit sizes for bigger people. At least, I think at the time, I was probably wearing like a 38 or a 40. I mean, now I think I'm down to like a 36, I think. But at the time, I was wearing like a 38 or a 40. And the highest that I seen PacSun, and like, you know, just because we're talking about that store in particular, the highest that I seen pants in there was maybe a 36. No cap. So like finding clothes as a bigger guy, like physically bigger and even taller. I'm not super tall, but like for bigger guys, finding clothes, that could be a really like hassle, especially like with it being like some nice quality drip too. Like I could be a hassle.
skinnier, at least that's one less thing I have to worry about. But also, I've got 2 kids and a wife, and I'm taking care of them. And as you pointed out, I definitely think that I'm at less health risks if I'm a skinnier person, if I'm a healthier person in that capacity. And I would much rather be that so that I could be around for my kids longer.
Okay. Can the disagreeers please step forward?
I'm speaking as someone who actually was a former smaller person.
Okay.
And I had the most body insecurities when I was small. I was constantly living in fear of gaining weight and having people tell me, oh, don't gain weight, don't do this, make sure that your weight is the same.
Okay.
And once I finally gained weight, I realized that first off, life wasn't over. I didn't feel any need to not engage in life the previous way that I had, and the attention that I got was different. But even as a smaller person, you get negative attention. And rather than trying to control my body to avoid that negative attention, I would prefer to address the situation as a society, make it more accessible for everybody to where we aren't feeling like I have to be a certain way that's normal in order to be treated like a human being and respected.
If I could counter, because I was a bit bigger when I was younger, and that's when I was the most insecure. I would look in the mirror. I did have family members that were skinny, but then I had a family member that was much bigger, and just the way that I perceived myself, I hated it, and I even became anorexic to like not be big.
I don't think skinny always equates to being healthy.
Exactly.
I don't.
I am fairly skinny. I'm 6'5". I'm 140 pounds last time I checked, and I'm severely underweight. And I know about this on a day-to-day basis. That being said, I don't know where I'd want to lean at an appropriate weight level, but I think it's important to understand for some skinny people, we're not living a great life by any means. And sometimes I feel like that's always kind of lost in translation when they see someone who's really skinny.
I guess it depends on what you mean when you think of the term skinny. Are you thinking of just like an average weight person, or are you thinking of how you are now?
I'm the average weight for like women in America.
Yeah,
so if we're talking about an average, like I'm gonna be the closest. If your biggest priority is to be at a smaller body, you need to reassess your priorities.
Not focus on health.
Yeah.
And the immediate tie between skinniness and health, like you emphasized, there is such a gap between, one, the research, because the research has a huge fat-phobic bias in it, and there has been research that shows that they aren't, even especially during, let's say, COVID and the correlation between obesity, They rushed through those studies so fast because in society's mind, oh, of course a fat person is going to equal someone who's going to get sick faster, is going to get sick easier. It was an easy jump. So they didn't do all of the testing that they were supposed to do. They didn't check their bias.
So
they
if
didn't
by
check.
saying the study is biased, you're saying that the study didn't account for the variable that obesity may also take a factor into. It's just that there's so many variables in humanity that these pharmaceutical companies could only account for so many during their trials. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're biased. However, you want to talk about bias in studies, actually recently we've been doing the opposite. So for instance, a lot of our studies have been based on BMI, and so we've been showing that, oh, fat people aren't necessarily extremely unhealthy if we look at people with a certain BMI. However, bodybuilders also have a really high BMI, and so they get counted into that category. And so it wasn't until very recently that they equated for that mistake, and it shows, oh my goodness, being fat is actually extremely unhealthy, like way more unhealthy than we ever realized.
You can't gauge health by looking at somebody.
That's a fact.
Like none of my
That's a
health
fact.
issues, all of them precipitated my weight gain. But I always get assumed, oh, don't you want to be skinny so that you don't have a cane anymore and you don't feel the way you feel? And it's like, no, because I have lupus and I'm always going to feel like this.
It's gonna happen
Like
no
I have
matter what.
CRPS. It's going to deteriorate. It's going to continue.
America has an obesity problem.
Hell yeah, they do. I think like compared to the rest of the world, we're like the most obese country. Like hell yeah, we got an obesity problem. That's crazy for anybody to deny that America don't have an obesity problem. That's a hell yeah right there for me. Like it's not even close. Yes, 1000%. 1000%.
Can I sit next to you?
Oh, absolutely, you can. I think it's pretty clear. You look at the weight of the average American, you see how obesity has affected not just children. I mean, the fact that we have more younger and younger people who are looking heavier and heavier, and you see that, like, you know, the way that weight affects us as a society, and you compare that to how we were in the past. Now, not that we should always, you know, we shouldn't compare ourselves to the era of the Great Depression when people just couldn't find food, of course, but people are heavier now in an unhealthy way, and people are eating unhealthy. They are eating it through unhealthy access to food. They're eating diets high in seed oils. They're eating high in corn syrup. They're doing all this kind of stuff that's not good for them that we didn't used to do. And it's bad. It's not a good thing. It's an epidemic. It needs to be quashed in some capacity.
There's so much access to just anything. Like it's so crazy these days. And you know, I'm so surprised that we're actually supporting a lot of this, you know, and there's always people like, you know, like it's fine that we have like 3 McDonald's like on the same street. And it's just like, we don't think that this is adding to the problem.
What I think is really sad about that is so many people in America just see the profit in it. I don't want to say I know that these people know the problem, but it's like, how can you not see the problem? They have to see it and just not care. They have to just be like, well, we're gaining profit. Do you see how much this McDonald's is making? Put another one across the street. Like, that's just like how it
That's
is.
the corporations,
like
the medical
financially
industry.
driven.
Having a fat country makes us money.
It doesn't help that our cities aren't walkable either.
Yeah,
America is a country of non-walkable cities.
That is why I wavered a little bit, because I think we have a problem with how to treat obesity. I think we have a problem with how to make it so that it is not an epidemic. This is a systemic thing, that we are in a society and in an environment that breeds this, and we are doing it to ourselves, we are doing it to our children, and our corporations and our industries are doing it to us, and they aren't having to take responsibility for
And
it.
they're encouraging it with media. So
And the mukbangs, I was literally gonna bring that up, the mukbangs and like all those videos that just come up to
it's
trends for
insane.
people
not
to do
only
it as
the
well.
mukbangs, but also like Lizzo and other big like media.
I'm sorry, there's a
Yo, I ain't gonna lie, bro. She is like, I ain't gonna lie. She definitely give her like fat phobia type stuff. Like she talk about even Lizzo and all. Like, oh my god, bro. She definitely giving like a fat phobia.
That's
there's a
different,
big difference between the people who are telling people go out and get fat versus a
I love
Lizzo
myself
who's saying
fat.
accept me the way I am.
She's not just saying accept me the way I am. She's dressing extremely scantily clad and then saying if you don't think that it's normal for a morbidly obese person to be wearing a G-string in the middle of public, then you're the problem. And they're trying to normalize society to this obese culture, which is extremely unhealthy.
Okay.
What is an obese culture?
A culture which like normalizes
Like, I'm obese
obesity.
and I haven't even heard that.
That's a crazy take right there. Not even gonna lie, because I'm not gonna lie. Some people are actually okay with being fat. People are comfortable in it to the point where they choosing not to move. But does that mean that we treat them differently though? Hell no. There's a lane for, I think there's a lane for everybody. Just how she just said that Lizzo be a big girl in a G-string and she trying to normalize and stuff like that. They make G-strings for bigger women. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lane for everyone. With that logic she's saying right now, she's like, oh, okay, well, you shouldn't flaunt how you feel about yourself if you're obese. That's what I felt from that. And I don't agree with that at all. Hell no. Hell no. If you know that you the stuff, regardless of how you look, flaunt that mess. Hell, go on out, pop it. Do whatever you gotta do. Don't get me wrong. Don't let nobody else try to tell you that what you're doing is wrong just because they don't agree with your life choices. It's your life. So I don't agree with that. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Well, obesity is already normal, so
Well, I don't think it should be normalized, and it wasn't normal.
But
just a couple
what's the
decades
difference
ago.
between a obese person, myself, walking around in a G-string or a bathing suit, as I do
Right.
almost every day, and a
Okay.
skinny person? Like, is it okay that the skinny person is doing that?
I
That's a
don't think
fact.
so, but
That's a fact.
that's for other reasons.
I get the whole public thing.
To say that when Lizzo does it is the same as a Victoria's Secret angel is just not the same.
Yeah, what's the
'Cause
difference?
Why is
it's-
not?
What do you mean? Are you telling me they look? You're telling me it doesn't.
I'm not saying they look the same.
Well,
but
I
I'm
mean,
saying
Lizzo
what's
goes
the
on
difference?
stage-
that's the implication. So if I walk down the street, I'm a runway model. I'm a print and runway model. I have walked down a runway in a thong. So me doing that is shameful, but a skinny model is
Like a
okay.
Victoria's Secret
I
model.
didn't. I don't know if
Yes,
I
you
used
did.
the phrase shameful,
Problematic.
but I don't think that we as a society should be modeling obesity.
But I'm not modeling obesity. I'm
Right.
modeling the lingerie that obese people need to be able to have availability to buy.
That's a fact.
They
you're
can, so they've always had the ability
No,
to buy
we have not.
lingerie.
If you go to Torrid,
No,
a single
we
underwear is
cannot.
like almost 20.
I don't know nothing about that part. I don't wear women's underwear. You know what I'm saying? I don't know nothing about that.
And you go to like any other Walmart, any Target, and like all these underwears are on special for like $5 to like $20 and stuff.
Well, it
and
does
it's
take
like
more
it's-
fabric to make it.
It does take more fabric
They
to make
use
it,
that
but
as
it's-
an excuse, but
that
you
would-
make yards of fabric
Yeah.
for gowns. You like
Is a
it's-
small
it's-
a different price than an extra large or a large?
It is.
And
yeah,
we're willing-
for 3XL shirts, I got to pay more money.
I think people
Wow.
view models and Instagram people and all of us who are plus size and proud
Yeah.
as we're pushing this obese lifestyle.
Yeah. Right.
No,
Right.
I'm pushing the fact that this is what I live in. This is my life. And I
Right.
need other people who feel this way to say, hey, I want to be able to wear clothes that look cute too.
I get that. I get where she's coming from.
I do think there's a problem with obesity in America, but I think it's a first world country problem because it's spread across the globe. And also, I don't see it as a problem. I do feel like health-wise, people should try to be healthier, but there's no perfect body. There's no perfect person. There's no perfect size. And there's people who are underweight.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. And then there's a lot of people who are overweight. So I really don't see it as like a problem. But
I
just
see
to
what you're
touch
saying. I
on
see
what
you're
you
saying.
were saying, because I am in the fashion industry, I wanted to become a fashion designer. My dad was one. And
Okay.
they buy 10 rolls of fabric for one price. So it really doesn't cost that much to make underwear.
Sure, but don't you also have to worry about distribution? I mean, if the average person is, let's say, in between small, medium, large,
Yeah.
and you're sending clothes out for those, you could send out 10,000 of this, 10,000 of that, 10,000 of that. You can't always send out 10,000 3XLs because you're not going to have that many people fitting in the 3XL.
That's a fact.
No, because there's somebody who works in marketing and they research that area. There's a census, so we have a database of what type of people are there. Now we don't know who's going in there, but we know the type of people that live in that area and the type of the people that come and visit the area. So that person is doing their job accordingly, and usually large sizes are sold out.
Okay.
You know what? I don't agree with the whole. It makes sense him saying, okay, well, I need a 3X. Using more fabric means that I gotta pay more money. I see what he's saying, but at least from her side of it, it's like, okay, well, you gotta understand. like I was saying before, there's a market for everyone. Just how there's a market for small, medium, large, there's a market for XL, double XL, triple XL, and then so on. Not everybody wear small, medium, large. Some people need other sizes. I can't say that I agree with them having to pay more because, at least from what his logic, my guy with the right here, his logic was, okay, well, they got to use more fabric to make something for people that's irregular, damn near. But I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a right thing, because like I said, there's a market, there's a lane for everything. So that should already be included, because we know that eventually somebody may need these clothes. Everybody can't wear small, medium, large, extra large. Some people are bigger than that, so they may need bigger clothes. But I don't think that you should hike the price on them just because you got to make a bigger t-shirt. I don't agree with that.
Okay, so somebody brought up the food desert earlier. I can't even think of an area that would have a so-called food desert.
Sorry, can someone explain, like maybe just for my ignorance, I'm guessing a food desert is just there's no food anywhere?
No, it's healthy options for food. So you can go into certain low-income areas and you'll see a Starbucks, a McDonald's, a Chick-fil-A, but there's no Trader Joe's.
A food desert, actually properly, there isn't any, like for a long period of driving, there's one gas station and a liquor store. Then you have to drive 2 more miles to hit the next grocery store.
But with the food desert, it's not just that there can be a grocery store there, but if I'm making minimum wage, I'm not gonna spend all of my money on what is gonna last me 2 meals versus what's gonna last me an entire week.
Yes.
Or if I'm on EBT and I have specific things that I have to choose to buy versus what I can't buy.
Yeah.
I'm born and raised in Colorado.
Okay.
In the outskirts, there's so many small towns that you don't even know that they're there. Most of them you won't see on a map, but if you're from there, then you'll know, and they all have to drive a decent amount to be able to go to an actual grocery store.
But how often are you going grocery shopping? Maybe like once every 2 weeks would be typically
I think
normal.
it
So you have to do a drive
My family, I gotta go
every
once a week.
So you're making a drive once a week, once every 2 weeks.
This
I
is
know.
also
Not a lot of people
saying
have
drive.
access to the
Yeah, like what
time
if I don't have a
to-
car?
I was like, I don't
I don't even
and if
drink.
you don't have, usually these food deserts also have very poor public transportation options.
Yep,
So
like in
you
the
are
mountains.
left with people who are stranded.
Yeah, but then what are they eating at all?
Yeah,
Unhealthy crap.
Like,
No, but how are they surviving
they're
at
going through
all?
the drive-through. They don't got a car to go to the
Yeah,
drive-through. How are
exactly.
They usually, what I see when I go to those rural towns and those rural places is they have chickens and they have animals.
Right.
And guess what? You can get some healthy
Healthy.
food out of that. That's
That
like,
sounds healthy.
having eggs and protein and things like that. I think I would be healthier if I lived rurally. In fact, my wife and I are trying to leave the state so we're not near all the Uber Eats and all the
I grew
all
up
that
in
stuff.
I grew up in a town of 500. The obesity problem there was not as significant as, say, in LA.
Okay.
And we talk about like food deserts and stuff. The nearest Walmart where I grew up was 45 minutes in any direction. The nearest McDonald's was nowhere near to be seen for a long time. So when I hear these, like, and there could be some evidence there as like the obesity problem is very low lift.
Were there grocery stores in your small town?
Yes.
Exactly.
Like I'm like kind of baffled by the fact that
Thank you.
Maybe I
me
just
too.
need to go out there and like experience the food deserts, but like there was grocery stores where I grew up. Just because we lived in the middle of nowhere doesn't mean we didn't have access to food. And actually, and I have to agree, we did have access to healthy food, very healthy food all the time. I don't think this is big of an issue in my personal opinion.
Fat shaming is worse than skinny shaming.
Bro, what kind of question is that? Yes, fat shaming is worse than skinny shaming. Well, let's just say that a lot of people in the U.S., believes or thinks how this woman thinks right here. Because you got to think about it. So many years that's been the standard. You got runway models, actual models, video vixens, artists. You got everyone. The standard has always been slim body, nice waist, turkey titties, big old booty. Or way back when, they just wanted the thin lady, just woman and bones. What they wanted. Is fat shaming worse? I would want to say, like, honestly, that just depends, man. I've been fat shamed before. Like, nigga, you fat. I don't know. I really don't know how to answer this question. I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say yes. Like I said, on both sides of the spectrum, I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yeah.
So I do agree that fat shaming is worse than skinny shaming. Just overall, entirely, the way that people like comment on people's weight compared to somebody skinny, they usually don't comment on somebody skinny.
Yeah.
They don't think there's something wrong with them. They don't, like, they'll maybe say like, oh, you're very thin, do you want to eat a cheeseburger? But that's not as bad as telling somebody you eat 10, stop. And you don't even know that they're eating 10.
Fat shaming is a systemic problem. You're not gonna not get a job because you're too skinny. Skinny bodies are praised in our society, whereas fat bodies, like, I don't get it as often as other people, but I get a lot of comments on my Instagram that are saying like, you're really beautiful, but you would look a lot better if you lost 50, 60 pounds.
Something that I always get a lot of comments on is my masculinity as a man because of how skinny I am. It's always something that I've always kind of dealt with. My favorite comment is always, I look like a sickly, ill Victorian child. And
that's horrible.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that.
No, I don't, it doesn't bother me as much, but this idea that skinny people can't also get these kind of comments are just kind of mind-blowing. That doesn't mean that they're, that one side is getting it worse than the other. I think that there are both sides getting piled on.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, I ain't gonna lie, I've made fun of people for being too skinny before. I have. Just how people have made fun of me for being big. I wouldn't say that one is worse. I mean, because you could really feel either way. Because there is skinny people who have been trying to gain weight and just unable to gain weight for whatever reason. They feel like, okay, this is not what I need to be, or this is not my best self because I want to gain more weight. It's a conscious thing. One is not really worse than the other. Like, real talk, I'm gonna retract my statement saying yes, fat shaming is worse, but I can see how that could be worse, considered a lot of people are commented on based off how big they are and not how skinny they are. So, but is one worse than the other? Not really. If I'm gonna be completely honest, not really. It's all bad.
Just at different varying degrees.
I think we're conflating two things as well. So there's a difference between fat shaming and fat discrimination. Fat shaming is an aspect of fat discrimination, but some of the things you were touching on are specifically societal and systemic fat discrimination that goes into our medical system, it goes into employment, it goes into all of our civil rights. As fat people, that skinny people don't necessarily have that same issue. And I come from cultures where they straight out called out skinny people. Oh, you look like bones. Oh, flaca, all of that. So I watched my cousins go through it. I went through it when I would get too skinny. As people, we are just too scrutinized when it comes to our bodies. We don't let people live.
But I think that's a good point. You said you were called skin and bones when you got
my cousin.
But your cousin. So people using shame as a motivator to get your cousin to not be too skinny. Shame as a motivator is a powerful tool. So the reason I sit over there is fat shaming worse than skinny shaming. Well, you could argue that shaming somebody in order to motivate them towards a healthy lifestyle is actually a good thing. Now, I have a lot of empathy because hearing your story about how you've been struggling with this since you were a child.
Since I was like a newborn baby, like health, everything's just been on that end where I've never known anything about being skinny or being fit or being athletic. I've never known anything about that.
Probably your situation, I don't think shame necessarily would motivate you, but for somebody where it is a option, so for instance, if you watch TLC, you watch My 600 Pound Life, 1,000 Pound Sisters, Family by the Ton, all of them can do it. All of them have had this systemic issue of weight gain.
I have watched those like as a younger person, and it would make me feel disgusted with me when I was a kid, so it would make me worse, and it made my mental health worse. Because then I'm like, is that how like everybody automatically views me as just like somebody?
And that's what I was gonna say. See, I see what she's saying. Shame can be used as a motivator. I wouldn't say that's your best one, and that definitely depends on like the personality trait of the person. Some people, they take that and that's something that sticks with them and that makes them feel worse. Like for myself, I'm naturally motivated. Y'all hear me and my brothers in our videos. My brother called me fat and stuff like that all the time. I didn't really care. I was comfortable. with being fat. I was comfortable with it. It wasn't necessarily my brother shaming me for being fat, but the jokes was like, man, you know what? Maybe I should, like, you know, get in the gym. And then when I had the opportunity to do so, I started to get on it, and that's just something that I developed for me. Like I came accustomed to the gym to the point where I was going 7 days a week. That's just me though. That's because I like how I feel after I get done working out. That felt a lot better to me than it did just sitting down like all day doing nothing, because that's what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? So I'd say that it definitely depends on the personality. Yes, shame can be a motivator, but I wouldn't say that should be like the first one to use. Like, you should try other methods before you resort to that one. That's like more on the extreme side, if you ask me.
Who's oversized and could possibly never even attain it because it's so just common.
I don't think we should shame anyone to do anything. No. I think everyone deserves to like themselves enough to like enjoy life.
I agree.
And if you do that as a fat person, okay. If you do it as a skinny person, also chill. It's not my business.
Shame is a broad category. I do think shame works in some cases.
It does.
I think that there has been good fat shaming towards me and bad fat shaming. Bad fat shaming is just, you know, somebody just saying, you're fat, things like that. That doesn't really work. But what does work is somebody looking at me and saying, don't you want to be around for your kids? And that worked.
I don't think
that
that's
worked.
shaming.
Yeah, like, do you consider that shaming?
I do. I think that's shaming. I think they were telling me, like, you should lose weight to be around for your children.
That's real.
I think that's shaming. Like an attempt to like try and say something bad about me.
Like they're personalizing it towards you and towards your kids. Like,
sure.
Of course, yeah. It's
but I think that worked. I think that worked. That really encouraged me to go to the gym and start trying to lose weight.
But that's you though.
Sure. I think you have to be specific to the person.
I think that's one thing is it depends on the person.
Sure.
And if someone wants to shame me and, like, you know, it depends on the person. I've been shamed a couple times and it's kicked me into gear to try to gain weight, but it's still really hard.
Sure. I agree.
It's,
Hell yeah.
It depends on who you are, I think.
Hell yeah.
When you were making a comment about people questioning your masculinity, I get the question of actually looking like a woman all the time, and it's always in play. I always get compared to, like, male characters, especially when I don't wear makeup, and that's because I don't have boobs, and I can't help that, but it's definitely really, really hard to, like, have people tell you constantly, like, here's the standard of how a woman should look, and you don't look like that, without even saying it. They don't say it, they're categorizing me, they're making fun of me, saying that I look like this one soccer player or something. And, you know, I think it's funny, but also shame can also be hard, because I can see what you mean. Sometimes it can really motivate you when it's out of love, but when it's out of pain, and when it's out of, like, not knowing someone and just saying it, then...
Yeah, the people who said that to me about my kids were not just some random guy online. People who were close to me and I knew cared about me, who I had a conversation with. So I do think it matters who says it, but I still would consider it to an extent shaming. And I'm okay with that. I think there is good shame. I think sometimes it helps motivate people in the right way.
The body positivity movement promotes childhood obesity.
Body positivity movement promotes childhood obesity. I kind of want to say no. Teaching a child to be comfortable with themselves is not necessarily you saying, okay, you need to be comfortable with how big you are. No, I think that's more of a mental thing, of like an acceptance thing. Like, okay, you don't need no one else to accept you. As long as you accept yourself, know that you're loved, and you know that, you know, you're a good person, all that good stuff, then you should be positive about the kind of person you are, about the body you have. Yes, this is what you have. I was positive when I was big. I'm positive now. I'm little, smaller. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I'm like super skinny, but significantly smaller than what I was. I wouldn't necessarily say that promoting positivity for a child's body is necessarily them saying, okay, it's okay for him to be obese. I won't say that, but I would definitely say that it's more of a, people have felt down based off of how they feel because of their appearance. As you being somebody who experienced something like that, you want to teach your kids on the positive side, hey, you know what? It's okay that you are like this. There's nothing wrong with you as a person, as you being big. You gotta understand, certain life choices can create certain habits or lead to other stuff. However, I wouldn't necessarily say that means that I'm promoting my child being obese. So I would say no. Y'all tell me what y'all think about that one. I think that's a good question.
Diet culture has positive effects.
Okay, so again, for myself, I didn't diet when I was on my journey of starting to lose weight. I mean, I'm not even done. I still got more stuff I got to do because now I'm to the point where I got a cool size. I'm ready to tone up. Diet culture has positive effects. Yes, it does. I do feel like that diet should be tailored to the person and the body type that they're looking for. What Jay is doing with his body might work for him, but might have a completely different effect on my body because still we have two different bodies. Does diet culture have a positive effect? I can't sit here and lie and say it don't. I think it do. It can have its negative effects as well, like making people feel like, oh, all you have to do is diet and then this is the answer. I can't sit here and deny that me changing stuff, like some of the stuff that I changed in my diet didn't help me out. I still ate whatever I want. Don't get me wrong. I still ate all the greasy food, ate whatever I want, which is why it took me so long for me to get to the size I am now. What I constantly did though is I just stayed in the gym, I stayed working out, I stayed doing, every single day I was going to the gym. I was starting to cut out stuff like periodically, maybe cut a little carbs here, maybe like cooking, learning how to cook differently with different components to make stuff healthier and still have a really good taste. But I wouldn't necessarily say that all effects of diet culture is negative. So I would say, yeah, it's a positive thing. For me, I didn't think that, to me, that meant no bread, no sugar, no nothing. Like I said, I ate whatever the hell I wanted. However, I made sure that I stayed in the gym, and then I also did like portion control. I didn't eat a whole lot only because I don't like to overstuff myself. So if I'm full, I'm full. And with doing that, it just decreased how much I ate. I didn't want to eat that much. Like if I'm full, I hate stuffing myself. Hate it. So if I'm full and all I took was 4 bites, then hey, I got a plate for tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just like I feel like it came with the consciousness of knowing when to stop. But I can't say, I won't sit here and say that changing stuff a part of how I eat, which I guess you say is diet, changing stuff of how I ate didn't help. So I'm gonna go yeah. It does have positive effects. I do. I think so.
I guess for me, diet culture is an important thing to have for people in the world. What I've realized after we're about to finish this up is there wasn't a lot of talk on skinny culture or like skinny people as a whole. Maybe that's because of how the prompt is. But I think it's important if we're gonna give positivity to kids who are obese, I think it's important to give them the options to, say if they wanna lose weight, they can. Okay. And I don't see a problem with that in any real sense.
Okay.
I think that diet culture is a reason that a lot of people struggle with weight problems in the first place.
Okay.
I have even struggled with my own weight issues in the past, and I was like struggling kind of with depriving myself too much because I had a trainer, and then I started binge eating. And as soon as I had like a mental break where I was like physically incapable of stopping myself from putting food in my mouth, I immediately went to see a doctor, and that doctor told me to read a book called Intuitive Eating, and it wildly changed my life. And it was about getting past diet culture and about how so many people ruin their lives with diet culture. And you see it with like somebody talked about eating grapes and lettuce, and it's grapes and lettuce, and it's just like it's this extreme, and so you go from one extreme and then you break, and then you go to the other extreme, and so like I was in my extreme, I broke,
and that's what I'm saying. Diet culture. I see what she's saying about how like a diet culture can like have a negative effect on when it comes to obesity. That it's all bad. I don't know how to. I don't know. This was a good question. Y'all let me know, man, because I can't say that it's all bad. But it will depend on your body type, though. All diets depend on your body type and what you're shooting for. So maybe what she was doing for her just wasn't something that she was looking for to give her the results that she wanted. So like I don't know, man. I don't know.
So that's why I'm anti-diet culture.
Yeah, I tried keto for a while.
Okay.
And that's the thing about what I realized is like that fad diet kind of stuff. And yeah, did I lose weight? I absolutely lost weight. Sure. Right. I didn't keep it off, and the reason I didn't keep it off is because diet culture is about turning the word diet from your overall eating into an activity that takes place over a period of time. A diet should not be something you do from January until May of next year. Diet is what you continually eat, is what you continually put into yourself. Yeah.
Lifestyle change.
Yeah, so my issue with diet culture is this idea of like, oh, I've got this perfect solution for you, man. All you got to do is this, and this, and that. And it's like, no. Like, the reality is like, yeah, there are good, correct, and objective ways, I think, for a lot of people to eat. And yes, everybody has to have some variations here and there. There's no one bag fix all, and diet culture is so much about trying to say, like, all you got to do is just eat cheese puffs every day for the rest of your life. And
It's easy.
yeah. And so that's why I think diet culture doesn't help.
You know, you're always going to get those people who have the perfect answer. They have the perfect solution to either lose weight, or diet isn't just losing weight; it's also gaining weight.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know, and
Yeah, it
I think
is.
a lot of people, maybe it's just for me, but
Hell yeah.
when I diet, it's actually not the opposite of fasting. I'm trying to eat more. I'm trying to gain more.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think people forget that when it comes to diet. When people instantly hear the word diet, they think losing weight. And I don't think that should always be the case.
That's a fact.
I've been
I
on
agree.
a lot of diets. I've been on diets for myself. I've been put on diets, and I've been put on diets by my coaches. So when I was young, I felt like it was more so like fasting, not eating, but working out. And maybe hopefully eating once you get home as a reward. And then when it became like, oh, like you're a good person in the team to like be the big person, be the defender, be buff. So it was like, now we have to gain all this weight and we have to pound you out. So it was like, I had to eat like 5 meals in a day. And I felt so gross because I was just like, I've never had to like pull out like a bar or something and like eat it during class and be like, I have to eat this because it's part of my diet.
When we
Yeah.
talk about diet culture, we're talking about not your diet as a whole. It's usually a fad diet is what we're talking about when we're talking about diet
course.
culture. And for me personally, I know that I've seen a lot of, especially women in my life, going on fad diets that are just not sustainable. And that's kind of the purpose of diet culture, is that it's not a sustainable thing.
But we're all talking about like mainstream, like keto, like gluten-free, and I think everyone's just polarized on these certain ones that I believe that you should eat gluten. I think if you take it out of your diet, you're actually going to get sick.
Unless you
Unless
are.
celiacs, no, like
It goes back to like what she said, which is, intuitive eating.
So what is the positive you think you've seen for people from diet culture? Which I think, and I guess, what do you consider diet culture?
I guess like diet culture to me is the resources you need to get to where you want to be in your life, in your body.
Yeah.
That's how I've always
That's
used
it.
diet
By
culture.
dieting, do you mean like journaling what you're eating?
Yeah, if you want to journal, if you want to, talk to a therapist, if you want to work out, if you want to see a doctor, if you want to go on meds, like everyone's
But
always...
it's not being super, like when you diet, you're not being like, I'm completely cutting out carbs or I'm completely doing this, right?
Drinking lemon water only. Or
Are you,
talking
you're
about
like
restrictive
watching your
behaviors.
macros and your micros and you're calculating
Like,
that
I
and you're
guess
staying
if
within.
you're asking if I know how many calories I have to eat, yeah, like I have to eat like 4,000 a day.
When most people talk about diet culture, they've done some sort of extremely restrictive thing, and when you do something really restrictive, it changes your brain chemistry and the way that you think about food, and it makes you obsessive over food, and then, but it sounds like the way that you're doing it is extremely healthy because you're not depriving your body of something.
But isn't that just goes back to like, you guys are talking about the extremes of diet culture?
Diet culture is one thing, and then a healthy lifestyle
Having a
and
healthy
intuitive
diet
eating type
is
thing
different.
are two different things.
Okay.
I personally don't think of living a healthy lifestyle as a diet.
You've been in like a model
I
space.
wouldn't-
Do you,
yeah, I
do you see
agree.
diet culture and how has it impacted that space?
There was a point in my life, like when I was a junior in high school, where the person that I was with at the time, he's like 6'6" and super tall. And so, the mom was like, hey, like my son is gonna go audition to this big agency, which is still big to this day, and you should come. So I went, and I weighed 115 pounds, and I was a D cup, and they said that I weighed too much.
Oh, wow.
And so
Oh, wow.
seeing that really struck me in the beginning with the negative part of dieting, and just kind of went into this spiral of like, okay, well, if I'm too big, then what are people doing to not
Right.
be this size? Like how can I make it to do what I want to do if this is my limitation to it? It took years later to realize, like, shit, I was really disciplining myself for no apparent reason,
Yeah.
except for this underlying feeling from years ago that I could never get rid of. When you're talking about like discipline, I think it can be really positive with dieting and like intaking your calories, but for me personally, and I'm a very specific case, seeing those numbers and knowing that I couldn't achieve it because I didn't have the appetite was also just so saddening to me, because reading the bare minimum of what a woman needs, 5'5" at my age, I was like, that's not that much, and I still couldn't eat it at the time, and I'm like, what's wrong with me? There's different ways to motivate people, and one of them is out of pain and anger,
Yes,
and
it is.
I feel like a lot of the diet culture, whether it's for positive or negative, is just trying to gear into that. And you know, I just am more about being healthy.
I hear diet and I think of something that's positive, and it's been positive to me, and you know, it's something I'm always trying to achieve. I guess like if we were to redo this, the same exact question, I may hesitate and not walk across the line. I guess I'll never know, but hearing these perspectives were really good because I probably didn't know as much about the extremes.
Right.
I want to thank all of you for sharing your opinions with us and for challenging us. And I really want to thank you. I thank you for the back and forth. It's something that I came here for, and I wanted to talk to somebody who thinks differently. And I've learned some things, so I appreciate that for all of you.
That's lit. That's lit. I ain't gonna lie. This was the W video. Do you think being fat is a choice? Let me know right now in the comments down below. W video though, man. Like, comment, and subscribe. Whatever goals y'all got in life, whether that be body, whether that be career, whether it be whatever, just know that you are more than able to achieve it. You just gotta keep on going. Life is gonna throw you curves, it's gonna throw you bumps, it's gonna throw you all kind of stuff. But as long as you keep on going, you'll get to where you wanna be. I'm not the skinniest dude in the world, but I'm not how I used to look either, at all. And y'all seen by that picture in the beginning of the video, shoot, or that video, that little snippet in the beginning of the video that, hey, I was there too. But don't let that stop y'all from whatever it is that y'all want to do. Y'all can do it. Just keep on going. Like, comment, subscribe, man. We gone.